Hey guys, Hippopotamus here, and today I'm going to be showing you my Negotiator's Dilemma PvP build. Just a couple of things to get out of the way is, one, I will just be discussing the theory of the build here. If you want gameplay, I'm happy to do a live stream for you. Please just put down in the comments. For how often I post, I don't really want to be looking at, editing videos. It's going to take me 5-6 hours for like a couple of hundred views. It's just not worth it for me. I'm sorry if that's a disappointment, but that's just the way that I feel about it. The other thing is I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet, hopefully under 10 minutes, because I don't want to waste loads of time discussing theory when I can just go over things quickly and let you sort of try it yourself. Okay, so on to the specialization. For this specialization, I am using the Technician, and there is one main reason for this, and it is because of this linked laser pointer. This is where we're going to be getting a large source of damage from, and it's absolutely imperative that we have this unlocked. Sometimes this can be bugged and you can have it without unlocking rifles, but for most of us, we're going to have to unlock the rifle subtree of the weapon damage category here, which will give you the linked laser pointer. We also have 2 assault rifles, and I'm only ever using one, so the 15% increased assault rifle damage is very, very useful. So the only other things in PvP that are really going to help us here are the EMP grenade here. This disrupts enemy skills and enemy agents, so can be useful in certain situations. And the other thing is the amped, which gives us 1 extra skill tier, which will help our skills as we are using a reviver hive and a decoy, giving them some extra value. So with that all said, let's just quickly move on from that and go down and take a look at the build. So for this build, I think I'm going to start with the Tinkerer's Mask because it's going to make everything make a little bit more sense as we go round and discuss things quickly. So for the Tinkerer Mask, this comes with weapon damage, crit hit chance, crit hit damage, and a crit hit chance mod placed in. To summarize the talent very, very quickly, Abridged is going to allow you to share the talent from your secondary weapon onto your primary weapon. Just one quick caveat with that is that you cannot share the primary weapon's talent onto the secondary weapon. It only works one way. So please do make a note of that. That is quite important. But this is going to effectively allow us to have our main weapon have 2 talents on it, which is going to be super useful. Okay, so moving on to the first gear set piece, and this is a Fenris AB group chest piece. It comes with 10% assault rifle damage as part of one of the bonuses, and the attributes are as follows. So core attribute, 15% weapon damage. We have crit chance, crit damage, and crit chance mod placed into the in-slot mod. For the talent, we are using Spotter, and this gives us 15% extra weapon and skill damage to pulsed enemies. We don't really care about the skill damage, we only care about the weapon damage, and that is what we're after. So that's an extra 15% amplified damage there, and that's important because it's multiplicative damage. So onto the gear set, and I'll just go round as I go here and just talk through each piece. So I'm using my first pieces of Negotiator's Dilemma here, and what I'll do is I'll just quickly summarize the gear set so everybody knows that we're on the same page and what we're talking about. If we wear 2 pieces of this, it gives you 15% crit hit chance. 3 pieces is 20% crit hit damage, and 4 pieces is hostile negotiations. And what this does is basically allows us to paint up to 3 targets once we get a crit on them. And once we do a crit on any of those enemies, 60% of that crit's damage is going to be shared across all enemies. We also, whenever a marked enemy dies, we gain 2% crit hit damage, stacking up to 20 times, or until combat ends. So this is not always going to be available, but it's possible to get maybe a few. And sometimes, you might be able to be, if you're near a landmark or something like that, before you get into a fight, you might be able to kill a few of the ads and then have a bit of that bonus available to you. So it's okay to remember that's there, but don't solely rely on that. It's just something to be aware of. Okay, so with the core attribute, it's weapon damage, and with the attribute, it's crit hit damage. So that covers that piece. So for our 2 pieces, we've said with the crit chance, this one is rolled with 15% weapon damage and has critical hit damage placed onto the attribute at the bottom. Now for my next 2 pieces, I have taken armor cores, and I will discuss that in just a second to show you why. But for our glove, we have 1 armor core, 170,000 armor, and crit hit damage. And for the backpack, we have an armor core and we have crit hit damage and crit hit chance. But obviously, with the backpack, this comes with a talent. And the talent is absolutely crucial because of what it does. The chest piece allows you to paint up to 5 targets, which we don't need, and we want that spotter chest piece. However, the backpack is important because it gives us the increased damage from critical measures. So it increases hostile negotiations damage from 60 to 112%. That's nearly double. And that is extremely important. That's going to allow us to do a lot more extra damage when we do crit and we paint those targets and we're shooting at a bigger target. Those weaker targets that we've painted, or the other targets for that matter, we're going to take a lot of increased damage from this just backpack having it. So we said that we've taken 2 armor cores. So this directly ties in to us having flatline and spotter. So you'll see that we have flatline here and spotter. That's 30% amplified damage. And in my mind, 30% is going to give us 2 free slots for armor. So we're not quite as squishy, and we are sat at 1.1 million. We could probably get to about 1.2 if we take some expertise. Right, with that said, let's talk about the weapon, because we've just discussed that. And for my placeholder weapon, well, the one that I'm not using, is a custom P416. I just had this in the box, and it had all the right boxes checked, really. It had the right talent and everything on it. It has assault rifle damage, health damage, damage to targets out of cover, and it has the talent flatline, which is going to give us that 15% extra damage to pulsed enemies, and hence the reason why we need the linked laser pointer. For my mods, I'm just using a crit chance scope or sight. I'm using 20 extra rounds, the linked laser pointer as discussed, and then 10% crit hit damage because we hit the cap on the rifle. So we're going to take a crit hit damage mod there. And then to our main weapon, I'm using the tactical MK16. So a couple of things to discuss with this weapon. This is a really, really good weapon. It's very accurate, it's very stable, and it does quite good damage. I quite like using this, and it's going to be a really great way of us sort of sharing crit damage between targets. It's just a nice in-between. So I'll discuss mine. It's got 10 ranks of expertise. We can put more in if we so please. It's got assault rifle damage, health damage, and damage to targets out of cover. All good stuff. And then for this one, I am using the talent measured. There is a reason for me using measured, and my reasoning is this. The top half of the magazine has a 25% fire rate increase. What that's going to mean is that I'm going to be able to shoot 25% faster and paint the targets, but they're also going to take less damage when I paint them. So it's going to allow me to mark up targets quickly, and they might not think that I'm doing as much damage as what I potentially could be doing. Once I get to the bottom half of the magazine, it's very likely that I'm going to have 1, 2, or 3 targets painted. So if I have 2 or 3 targets painted, whatever target that I'm then shooting at that's out of cover, i.e. a regen tank, a big horn regen tank that's just running around in damage, trying to shrug the damage off. If I've painted like a damage player or even a pulse resistance player that can't be pulsed, and then shoot at the player that isn't pulse resistant, I'm going to still have that damage effect to share the crit damage over to the other players. So this is super useful, and I think it synergizes really nicely. But what I do want to say is you don't have to use measured. You could use optimist or some other talent that you feel would be useful. I just find that this works really, really well with this build. The other thing is just the mods. So again, we have the crit hit damage on the muzzle, we have the linked laser pointer and the extended magazine. This is all stuff that we know, but I actually use the C79 scope, and there is a reason for that, and it's basically when I'm head peeking or looking out of a peak where I'm holding an angle, the scope allows you to expose less of your body. Like it's just a way that you can look around a corner and it's hard for them to return damage. I'll show a little bit of that in the range when we get there, but it's a nice way of being able to sort of like control where you're shooting as well as have a focus down an angle that you're holding. Okay, so the other thing is just the pistol. It's the quick step. Without this in PvP, you're going to struggle. Everybody does have this, and the movement bonus is just too good to pass up. So this will always be on PvP builds from me from now on. And mine is just set up with pistol damage and damage to targets out of cover. It doesn't matter how yours is rolled, as long as you have one and you can hold onto it for that movement speed. We are not using it for anything else. So, onto my skills, I have the Reviver Hive. There is a reason for this, and it's because I'm only 2 blue cores on 1.1 million. I don't look super squishy, but if I take return fire, there's a good chance that I could get downed. This is going to save me if I play at a mid to long range build, mid to long range sort of engagements. If I play up close, I'm dead. There's no two ways about it. But The way that I mean to play this build is from medium to long ranges, so if I get downed, this can pick me up without a teammate having to stop covering fire for me, and it also gives me a chance to pick up teammates if they go down because I am playing the back line. The other skill that I'm using is the holographic distraction, and that is just exactly for the reason as it sounds like, it is just a distraction. If I throw this out and an enemy looks at this rather than looking at me, it means that I've got a second to put damage on them and it might be too late before they can return fire. So I do really think the holographic distraction is very important. The Reviver Hive depends on you and how you play. You may want to change this one out. We've already discussed the EMP grenades, there's no point in going over that again. So what we'll do is we'll just quickly go down, see that the range is on heroic, and we will also just check the stat sheet and go through that quickly. So remembering that we're using measured and flatline, both on our primary weapon, we have both. We also have the quick step, so we can get that movement buff. Remembering that we're using the specialization of the technician to get at that link laser pointer, so that's very important. Damage on weapons is high, and I have hit the crit cap on both, so that's just important to point out. Okay, so again, damage is high across the board. And we are using the talent's critical measures, spotter and abridged. For our gear and brand set pieces, we are using the Tinkerer, 4 pieces of Negotiators, and 1 piece of Fenris. Our armor is relatively low at 1.134 million. We could probably get this number up to somewhere around 1.2 million. So I think that would be the best that we could do. But as we are playing the back line, we are at the back, you could add an extra armor core if you felt you need it. But I think, to be honest with you, sitting at the back of the group, this is plenty enough armor to not look squishy and still be able to take a little bit of return fire should we do so. Okay, so obviously this is just from the watch and from the season, so we don't actually have 50% resistance. That's just from the thing. We just have the standard 10% from the watch and then 40 from there. But what we do have is we have the Reviver Hive and the decoy. So I'll remember to turn that off in the next video with the hazard protection. So to go through the build, the main things is that what we're going to do is we're going to pick out targets. Now, when we're talking about targets, we're just going to say, like, in a fight, there might be 2 regen tanks and there might be a damage player. That's a common setup. So what we would do is we would paint a couple of the targets, and whichever target doesn't get down into cover, that's the one that we're going to start tipping the damage onto. And as you can see, you know, if there's a weaker player that's in that group, they're going to die because that other player didn't get into cover. So the other thing that I was talking about was holding an angle. So we'll just quickly go through that. So if we imagine this wall that I'm pressing the button here as a wall that I'm holding on, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get behind the wall and I'm just going to peek out from the wall here and hold this angle where I can only see a certain way, so only a certain amount of my body is exposed, and I'm just going to hold that angle. And what I can then do is paint targets and expose less of my body. I also have the Reviver Hive. Remember, that's for me and also a teammate. If somebody goes down, we've got the potential of picking up to 2 people up, or myself. And we also have the decoy as well, which we can place down and then sit on a corner peak and just expose as little of us as possible. And if they go for that decoy, they're going to be in trouble. The other thing is just don't forget we have the EMP grenades as well. They can be useful for shutting down skills if you need it. And that is the quick summary and everything done. I hope you enjoyed that, everyone. So I appreciate you tuning in for this one, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching.